My fiancée thought testing my jealousy with her ex would be funny. I let them play their little game, smiled, paid the bill, and left. The next morning, he called me crying, realizing the only one tested was him. What happened that night changed everything I thought I knew about the woman I was planning to marry. I'd been with Brittany for 2 years, and we'd gotten engaged 6 months ago after what I thought was the most genuine relationship of my life. She was everything I'd been looking for: ambitious marketing coordinator, beautiful, shared my love for weekend wine tastings and planning our future together. That Tuesday evening, she suggested we meet her ex-boyfriend Cole for dinner at Meridian, this upscale wine bar downtown that charged $40 for appetizers. "I want to prove there's nothing between us," she said, touching my arm with that sweet smile I'd fallen for. "Cole keeps saying you're probably the jealous type, and I want to show him how secure and confident you are." The whole setup felt staged, but I agreed because I trusted her completely. Cole arrived 20 minutes late, shaking my hand with this smirk that immediately put me on edge. He was everything I wasn't: 6'2", expensive suit, the kind of aggressive confidence that filled a room. "So you're the guy who stole my girl," he said, ordering a $150 bottle of wine without asking what we wanted. Throughout dinner, he made increasingly cutting remarks about my career as an IT specialist, my choice to wear jeans to a nice restaurant, even my decision to order salmon instead of steak. "Real men eat red meat," he laughed, while Brittany giggled and touched his arm. I remember when Britt used to complain about dating guys who didn't know how to be masculine. Every comment felt designed to provoke me, but I just smiled and nodded, watching Brittany encourage him with her laughter and flirtatious touches. When he suggested I was probably one of those controlling boyfriends who checks her phone, she actually agreed. "He does get a little paranoid sometimes," she said, not meeting my eyes. "It's honestly kind of exhausting having to reassure him constantly." The conversation grew more intimate between them, references to inside jokes and memories I wasn't part of, casual touches that lasted too long. Cole kept refilling her wine glass while barely acknowledging my presence, and she let him, leaning closer with each passing minute. "You know what I miss most about us?" he said directly to her, completely ignoring me. "How spontaneous you used to be. Remember that weekend we drove to Napa without any plans?" She blushed like a teenager. "That was amazing. We should do that again sometime." The way she said it made my stomach drop, but I maintained my composure, even smiled when she finally remembered I was sitting there. "I mean, we should all do something like that. As friends." After 3 hours of this psychological torture, Cole excused himself to the bathroom, and Brittany turned to me with bright eyes. "See? That wasn't so bad. You passed the test perfectly. No jealousy, no possessiveness. Cole was impressed by how secure you are." I looked at her flushed face, her slightly disheveled hair from leaning so close to him, the way she'd completely dismissed me for an entire evening. "Great," I said calmly. "I'm glad I passed." When the check came for $340, I paid it without complaint, smiled politely at Cole's condescending handshake, and kissed Brittany goodnight like nothing had happened. "I'll call you tomorrow," she said, already pulling out her phone to text someone. The next morning at 7:30, my phone rang with Cole's number. His voice was shaking so badly I could barely understand him. "You have to help me," he sobbed. "Elena broke off our engagement. Her father fired me. Everything's ruined, and it's all because of what you did." I sipped my coffee and let him cry for a full minute before responding. "What I did? I just paid for dinner and went home." "The recording devices," he whispered. "The video you sent to Elena and her father. How long have you known?" The satisfaction in my voice was unmistakable. "Known what, Cole? That you've been sleeping with my fiancée for 3 months? Or that you're engaged to your boss's daughter while bragging about it to strangers in restaurants?" His silence told me everything I needed to know. The test had worked perfectly, just not the way Brittany had planned it. For weeks before that dinner, I was reviewing our joint credit card statement when I noticed something odd: charges at expensive restaurants and boutiques I'd never been to, always during my work hours. When I asked Brittany about them, she had explanations for everything. Girls' lunch with Sarah, or shopping with my sister Emma. I believed her because why wouldn't I? We were planning our wedding, looking at venues, talking about starting a family. Then my college roommate Marcus called with news that shattered everything I thought I knew about my life. "I saw Brittany yesterday at Café Lumière," he said carefully. "She was with some guy, and they definitely weren't acting like friends." Marcus had been my roommate for 3 years. Quiet, observant, not the type to create drama or jump to conclusions. "What do you mean, not like friends?" I asked, though part of me already knew. Holding hands across the table, feeding each other dessert, kissing when they thought nobody was looking. "I'm sorry, man. I debated calling you for 2 days." My first instinct was to confront her immediately, demand answers, have the explosive fight that would either clear the air or end our relationship. Instead, I did what I always do when facing a complex problem. I analyzed the situation logically and developed a strategy. If Brittany was cheating, a direct confrontation would only give her time to craft lies and cover her tracks. I needed irrefutable evidence, not just accusations based on one sighting. That night, I created a detailed timeline of her suspicious behavior over the past 3 months. The late nights at work that couldn't be verified, the weekend trips with girlfriends who never seemed to post photos together, the way she'd started guarding her phone like state secrets. I also began researching the man Marcus had seen her with, starting with her social media connections and mutual friends. It didn't take long to identify him. Cole Brennan, 31, senior marketing director at Preston and Associates, her ex-boyfriend from college who'd recently moved back to town. His LinkedIn profile showed him as accomplished and ambitious, the kind of man who'd photograph well in expensive restaurants. More importantly, his relationship status showed he was engaged to Elena Preston, whose last name matched the company where he worked. Elena's father owned the firm. Over the next week, I carefully monitored our finances and discovered the pattern was much worse than I'd initially realized. Brittany had been using my emergency credit card for purchases totaling over $4,000 in 2 months, designer clothes, expensive spa treatments, jewelry I'd never seen her wear. She was funding a lifestyle with someone else using my money, probably trying to impress Cole with her sophisticated tastes. The betrayal cut deeper than just infidelity. She was literally making me pay for her affair. I began documenting everything: screenshots of charges, photos of receipts I found in her purse, even recording casual conversations where she mentioned her whereabouts. My background in IT made it easy to track her digital footprint, and what I found was devastating. Text messages with Cole discussing their physical relationship, photos of them together at intimate locations, even complaints about me being boring and too predictable. She was living a double life with surgical precision, maintaining the perfect fiancée facade while conducting a passionate affair behind my back. The most damaging evidence came from her cloud storage, which she'd foolishly linked to our shared family account. Videos and photos of them together at hotels, restaurants, even in our apartment when I was traveling for work. Cole wasn't just her ex-boyfriend, he was her current lover, and they were both treating me like a convenient fool who funded their romance. But the piece of information that changed everything was discovering Cole's engagement to Elena Preston. He wasn't just cheating with my fiancée, he was cheating on his own fiancée with mine, creating a complex web of deception that involved 4 people's lives. That's when I realized I had leverage beyond just exposing Brittany's betrayal. Cole had much more to lose than just a relationship. His career, his reputation, his entire future were tied to Elena's family. 3 weeks into my investigation, I had enough evidence to destroy both of them, but I wanted something more satisfying than just presenting facts. I wanted them to expose themselves so completely that they couldn't deny or minimize what they'd done. That's when I decided to become the insecure, jealous boyfriend Brittany apparently wanted me to be. For 3 weeks, I carefully transformed myself into the paranoid, controlling partner that would justify everything Brittany was doing behind my back. It started with subtle changes, questioning her when she came home late, asking who she'd been texting when her phone buzzed during dinner, making casual comments about how distant she seemed lately. "You've been working a lot of overtime recently," I'd say with just enough concern in my voice to sound suspicious. "Is everything okay at the office?" She'd reassure me with that practiced smile, but I could see the wheels turning behind her eyes, probably already planning how to use my jealousy to her advantage. I began checking her phone when she left it unattended, making sure she caught me doing it, then apologizing profusely when she confronted me. "I'm sorry, I just saw a notification and got worried," I'd say, looking genuinely remorseful. "I know I'm being ridiculous, but I love you so much that the thought of losing you makes me crazy." Each manufactured moment of insecurity fed her narrative that I was becoming impossibly possessive and difficult to deal with. She started complaining to her friends about my behavior, which I knew because I was monitoring her conversations. "Jake's been so weird lately," she texted her sister Emma. "He's constantly questioning where I've been and who I'm with. It's like he doesn't trust me at all." The irony was overwhelming. She was cheating on me while painting me as the unreasonable one for noticing her suspicious behavior. I escalated my performance gradually, commenting on her new clothes with fake confusion. "I don't remember you buying that dress. It's beautiful but expensive looking. When did you get it?" She'd claim it was borrowed from a friend or purchased months ago, and I'd nod like I believed her while internally cataloging another lie. When she mentioned plans with girlfriends, I'd ask detailed questions about where they were going and who would be there, then act embarrassed about my curiosity. "Sorry, I don't mean to interrogate you. I just miss spending time together, and it feels like you're always busy lately." The breakthrough came when I started questioning her social media activity with the perfect balance of neediness and suspicion. "I noticed you haven't posted any photos of us recently," I said one evening while she scrolled through Instagram. "And you used to tag me in everything, but now it's like I don't exist on your feed." She looked genuinely annoyed. "God, Jake, you're becoming one of those boyfriends who monitors social media like it's a relationship report card. It's honestly exhausting having to document every moment of our relationship for public consumption." I apologized immediately, but the seed was planted. Over the next few days, she began building her case with friends and family about my increasingly controlling behavior. "He wants to know where I am every second," she complained to her mother during a phone call I pretended not to overhear. "Yesterday he asked me why I didn't answer his text for 2 hours. 2 hours? I was in a client meeting, but apparently that's not a good enough excuse anymore." Her mother, who'd always liked me, suggested maybe I was just stressed about the wedding planning and needed reassurance. But Brittany was building toward something bigger, and I could feel it coming. The final piece fell into place when I started making comments about her friendship with Cole, who she'd mentioned a few times as someone from college who'd moved back to town. "It's great that you're reconnecting with old friends," I said carefully. "But I notice you mention Cole pretty often. Should I be worried about anything?" Her reaction was perfectly calculated, just enough indignation to seem genuine. "Are you seriously asking if I'm cheating with Cole? That's insane, Jake. He's just a friend, and the fact that you'd even think that shows how paranoid you've become." I backed down immediately, apologizing for being suspicious, but I could see her mind working. 3 days later, she came home with the perfect solution to prove my jealousy was unfounded. "I've been thinking about what you said about Cole," she began, settling beside me on the couch with that sweet expression she used when she wanted something. "Maybe we should all have dinner together so you can see there's absolutely nothing romantic between us. Would that help put your mind at ease?" I pretended to consider it, letting her see my internal struggle between wanting to trust her and needing proof. "I don't want to be the kind of guy who needs to meet his girlfriend's male friends," I said slowly. "But honestly, yes, it would help me feel more secure about everything." She beamed like she'd solved world hunger. "Perfect. I'll set something up for this week. You'll see how platonic everything is between us, and then you can stop worrying about imaginary threats to our relationship." As she texted Cole to arrange the meeting, I excused myself to order the recording equipment I'd need to capture everything they were about to confess. The recording equipment arrived 2 days before our dinner at Meridian, and I spent hours testing every component to ensure flawless documentation of what I knew would be their complete confession. I'd ordered a professional-grade lapel microphone that looked like a standard shirt button, virtually undetectable but capable of capturing conversations up to 20 feet away with crystal clarity. The pen camera was even more sophisticated, a fully functional ballpoint pen with a tiny lens that recorded high-definition video for up to 4 hours continuously. I practiced positioning both devices until I could activate them without any obvious movements, and tested the audio quality by recording myself reading newspaper articles aloud from various distances and angles. Everything had to be perfect because I'd only get one chance to capture their admissions. The night of the dinner, I dressed carefully in a dark blue button-down shirt that would camouflage the recording device, and slipped the pen camera into my jacket pocket with the lens positioned to capture the entire table. Before leaving my apartment, I activated both devices and spoke clearly into the microphone. This is Jake recording dinner at Meridian Wine Bar on Tuesday, November 15th, with Brittany and Cole. I wanted a clear timestamp and identification for legal purposes, though I wasn't planning to involve lawyers, just Elena and her father. Arriving at the restaurant 15 minutes early, I requested a corner table that would provide optimal acoustics and visual angles for my equipment while seeming like a natural choice for intimate conversation. When Brittany and Cole arrived together, already a telling detail since they claimed to be meeting casually, I stood to greet them with the perfect mixture of nervous energy and forced friendliness. "Cole, great to finally meet you," I said, extending my hand while internally noting how he looked at Brittany like he owned her. "Brittany's told me so much about your college days together." Throughout the evening, I carefully played the role of an insecure partner seeking reassurance, asking exactly the right questions to provoke Cole into revealing more than he intended. "So you two dated for how long in college?" I asked with manufactured curiosity. It must be nice catching up with someone who knew Brittany back then. Cole's arrogance made him the perfect target for my manipulation. "Oh, we dated for 2 years, he said, refilling Brittany's wine glass with possessive familiarity. "I probably know her better than anyone, including all her little secrets and preferences." The way he emphasized preferences while looking directly at her made my stomach turn, but I smiled and nodded like an oblivious boyfriend grateful for the insight. "That's so sweet that you've stayed close," I said. "Brittany mentioned you two text pretty regularly now that you're back in town." I watched them exchange a loaded glance before Brittany jumped in with practiced casualness. "We're just catching up on old times, sharing memories from school." But Cole was already 3 glasses deep and feeling bold. "Actually, we've been spending quite a bit of time together lately," he said, clearly enjoying making me uncomfortable. Brittany needed someone who understands her on a deeper level, someone who appreciates her sophistication and ambition. The implication hung in the air like a challenge, and I took the bait perfectly. "What do you mean by deeper level?" I asked with just enough edge in my voice to sound threatened. "I'd like to think I understand my fiancée pretty well." Cole laughed with genuine condescension. "No offense, but Brittany has needs you probably don't even recognize. She's not the kind of woman who's satisfied with quiet nights at home and basic dinner dates at chain restaurants." He gestured around the expensive wine bar. "She deserves someone who can match her energy and give her the lifestyle she's earned." I let my face show hurt confusion while internally celebrating his arrogance. "I think I take pretty good care of Brittany," I said defensively. "We're planning a beautiful wedding, looking at houses in good neighborhoods." "Planning is different from delivering," Cole said, reaching across to touch Brittany's hand. "Some men talk about the future, while others make it happen in the present." Brittany squeezed his fingers and looked at me with mock sympathy. "What Cole means is that you're a wonderful, stable guy, but sometimes a woman needs more excitement and passion in her life." The alcohol was making them both reckless, and I pushed just hard enough to keep them talking. "Are you saying I'm boring?" I asked with wounded pride. "Because I work hard to make sure we have financial security and a solid foundation for our future." Cole actually rolled his eyes. "Financial security is great, but what about emotional and physical excitement? When's the last time you surprised her with something spontaneous and romantic?" Before I could answer, he continued. "Last weekend, I took Brittany to that new rooftop bar downtown, then we went dancing until 2 in the morning. When's the last time you did something like that?" My heart pounded as I realized he'd just confessed to taking my fiancée on a romantic date, but I kept my voice steady. "I didn't know you two went out last weekend," I said, looking between them. "You told me you were having girls' night with Emma." Brittany's cheeks flushed, but Cole was too drunk and arrogant to let her cover. "Sometimes friends need to blow off steam together," he said with a smirk. Especially when they're feeling unappreciated at home. The conversation continued for another hour, with Cole making increasingly explicit references to their relationship while Brittany encouraged him with laughter and touches. He talked about knowing her body better than anyone, about how she confided in him about feeling sexually unsatisfied, about plans they were making for weekend getaways. Every word was being captured in perfect digital clarity, creating an unbreakable record of their affair and their complete disrespect for me. When Cole excused himself to the bathroom near the end of the evening, Brittany leaned across the table with bright, satisfied eyes. "See how well this is going? You're handling everything perfectly, and Cole is really impressed by how mature and secure you are." I smiled back at her glowing face, knowing that in less than 12 hours, both their lives would be completely destroyed by their own words. The moment I left Meridian that night, I executed the plan I'd been preparing for 3 weeks with military precision. My first stop was the 24-hour business center downtown, where I uploaded the video and audio files to a secure cloud server and began editing them into a comprehensive presentation. The footage was even more damaging than I'd hoped. Cole's arrogant confessions, Brittany's encouraging responses, their casual discussion of romantic dates and physical intimacy, all captured in high-definition clarity with perfect audio quality. I created 2 versions, a 20-minute comprehensive edit showing their entire conversation, and a 5-minute highlight reel of the most damaging admissions for busy executives who might not have time to watch the full version. While the files processed, I logged into our joint banking accounts and systematically removed Brittany's access to everything. I canceled her authorized user status on my credit cards, changed all the passwords on our shared accounts, and transferred our joint savings into my personal account, money I'd contributed almost entirely anyway. I also changed the security codes on my apartment building and had the locks rekeyed by a 24-hour locksmith service. By 3 in the morning, Brittany was financially cut off and physically locked out of my life. The research I'd done on Cole proved invaluable for targeting my counterattack. Elena Preston wasn't just his fiancée. She was the daughter of Harrison Preston, who owned Preston and Associates, where Cole worked as senior marketing director. Elena herself was a successful attorney who'd recently made partner at a prestigious law firm, and her engagement to Cole had been featured in the local business journal as a merger of 2 prominent families. Their wedding was planned for spring at the country club where Harrison Preston served on the board of directors. I crafted my email to Elena with careful consideration for her professional background and personal situation. "Dear Ms. Preston," I began, "I'm writing to share information that I believe you have a right to know regarding your fiancé Cole Brennan. I recently discovered that Cole has been conducting an affair with my fiancée, and I have documented evidence of their relationship that I feel obligated to share with you." I attached the 5-minute highlight video and included timestamps for the most relevant admissions. "I understand this information is painful and intrusive, but I believe you deserve to know the truth about the man you're planning to marry. I'm also sending this information to your father given Cole's position at your family's company and the professional implications of his conduct." The email to Harrison Preston was more direct and business-focused. "Mr. Preston, I'm writing to inform you of conduct by your employee Cole Brennan that reflects poorly on your company's reputation and values. As the attached evidence demonstrates, Mr. Brennan has been conducting an extramarital affair while engaged to your daughter and has made statements that suggest a pattern of deception and poor judgment that extends beyond his personal life. I emphasized Cole's arrogant comments about manipulating situations to his advantage and his casual disregard for professional boundaries. Given that Mr. Brennan represents your firm in client relationships and business development, I thought you should be aware of his character and decision-making patterns." I sent both emails at 4:17 in the morning, knowing they'd be among the first messages Elena and her father saw when they started their day. Then I went home, packed every trace of Brittany's existence into boxes, and arranged for a moving company to store her belongings in a facility across town. I wanted her completely erased from my space before she had a chance to create drama or try to manipulate the situation. At 7:30, my phone rang with Cole's panicked call, confirming that my emails had hit their targets with devastating accuracy. His voice was shaking so badly he could barely form coherent sentences. Elena watched the video and immediately drove to her father's house. He sobbed. They had an emergency meeting at 6 this morning, and Harrison called me into his office at 7:15 to fire me personally. 3 decades with that company, and I'm out with no severance, no references, nothing. I let him cry for a full minute before responding with calm satisfaction. That's unfortunate, Cole. But actions have consequences, especially when you document them so thoroughly in public restaurants. You set us up, he whispered. You manipulated the whole situation. I gave you an opportunity to tell the truth about your relationship with my fiancée. I corrected. You chose to confess to adultery and mock my intelligence. Nobody forced you to be arrogant and stupid. The beauty of my plan was its elegant simplicity. I hadn't fabricated anything or created false evidence. I'd simply created the perfect environment for Cole and Brittany to expose themselves with their own words and actions. Elena's posting on social media about moving to Chicago for a fresh start. Cole continued desperately. Her father won't even look at me. 20 years of building my career, and it's all gone because of one night. One night? I laughed. Cole, you've been sleeping with my fiancée for 3 months. This wasn't some momentary lapse in judgment, it was a sustained betrayal that you were stupid enough to confess to while being recorded. I hung up and immediately blocked his number, then settled in to wait for Brittany's inevitable arrival. She showed up at my building at 8:45, probably expecting to walk into our apartment and continue her double life like nothing had changed. Instead, she found building security waiting with boxes of her belongings and instructions that she was no longer welcome on the property. I watched from my window as Brittany stood on the sidewalk outside my building, staring at the boxes of her belongings with complete shock and confusion. She tried calling my phone repeatedly, but I'd already blocked her number and changed my voicemail to a simple message. If this is Brittany, your belongings are with building security. All other callers, please leave a message. She spent 20 minutes arguing with the security guard, probably trying to convince him that there'd been some mistake, that she lived here and had every right to come upstairs. But I'd already provided management with copies of the lease showing only my name and specific instructions that she was no longer authorized to enter the building under any circumstances. The beauty of having everything in my name became crystal clear as I watched her realize she had no legal standing to demand access to what she'd considered her home for the past year. She finally called a taxi to take her and her boxes to whatever temporary arrangement she could manage, probably back to her sister Emma's place where she'd have to explain why her engagement had suddenly imploded overnight. The phone calls from her family started within hours, each one following the same predictable pattern. Emma called first, then her mother, then her father, all demanding to know why I'd suddenly gone crazy and thrown Brittany out without explanation. I'd prepared for this by creating a simple response strategy. I sent each caller the 5-minute video highlights without commentary or argument. I think this explains everything you need to know. I wrote in identical emails to each family member. I'm not interested in discussing the situation further, but I wanted you to have the facts before making any judgments about who's responsible for what happened. The responses came back within hours, and the tone shifted dramatically once they'd seen the evidence. Emma's follow-up email was particularly satisfying. I had no idea Brittany was capable of this level of deception. I'm so sorry for what she put you through, and I completely understand your decision. Please don't judge our entire family based on her behavior. Her mother called back that evening, crying and apologizing for her daughter's actions. I raised her better than this, she said through tears. I don't know how she became someone who could treat a good man so badly, but you deserve so much better than what she gave you. Even her father, who'd always been somewhat cold toward me, left a voicemail expressing his disappointment in Brittany and his respect for how I'd handled the situation. You showed more class in one night than she showed in 3 months, he said. I hope you find someone worthy of the effort you put into relationships. The social fallout was even more comprehensive than I'd anticipated. Brittany's friends began reaching out to me with apologies and expressions of support, many admitting they'd suspected something was wrong but hadn't known how to approach me about it. Sarah from her work wrote a particularly insightful message. I always thought it was weird how secretive she'd become about her social life, and now it all makes sense. The way she talked about you at office parties versus her behavior when you weren't around never matched up. Meanwhile, Cole had apparently disappeared from social media entirely, deleting his professional profiles and personal accounts within 24 hours of losing his job. Elena, however, was posting updates about her fresh start in Chicago, including photos of apartment hunting and job interviews at prestigious law firms. Her caption read, "Sometimes the worst betrayals lead to the best opportunities. Grateful for the truth and excited for what comes next." I found myself genuinely happy for her. She deserved better than Cole, and she was clearly someone who could bounce back from devastation with grace and determination. Brittany made one final attempt to contact me directly, showing up at my office building 3 days after I'd changed the locks. Security called to ask if I wanted to see her, and I could hear her voice in the background, crying and insisting she just needed 5 minutes to explain everything. "Tell her I'm not available," I said calmly. "And if she continues to harass me at work, I'll need to involve the police about stalking charges." That was the last time she tried to reach me directly, though I heard through mutual friends that she'd moved back in with her parents after Emma kicked her out for bringing drama into her household. The story of what happened at Meridian had spread through our social circle with remarkable speed, probably because Cole had been stupid enough to brag about the affair to multiple people before discovering the consequences of his arrogance. Our mutual friend group handled the situation with surprising maturity, making it clear that my actions were completely justified and that Brittany's behavior had been unacceptable. Several people mentioned they'd lost respect for her months earlier due to her entitled attitude and constant complaints about being underappreciated, which suggested her character problems extended far beyond just infidelity. The final confirmation that my plan had worked perfectly came 2 weeks later when I received a LinkedIn message from Elena Preston. "I wanted to thank you for having the courage to share what you discovered," she wrote. "It couldn't have been easy to expose your own pain to help a stranger, but you saved me from making the biggest mistake of my life. I hope you find the happiness you deserve with someone who values your integrity and thoughtfulness." 3 months later, I was living in a completely transformed space that finally felt like home again. Every trace of Brittany had been systematically removed and replaced with things that actually reflected my interests and values: technical books, quality kitchen equipment, artwork I'd chosen myself rather than expensive pieces selected to impress other people. The financial recovery was remarkable. Without funding someone else's lifestyle, I'd already rebuilt my emergency savings and started investing in a retirement portfolio that would actually benefit me. My apartment felt lighter, more peaceful, like I could finally breathe without constantly calculating the cost of someone else's happiness. I never heard from Brittany again after that final attempt at my office, though occasional updates filtered through mutual friends who seemed genuinely relieved that the drama had finally ended. She'd apparently taken a job in retail after being let go from her marketing position. Whether due to the scandal or her own poor performance, nobody seemed certain. Cole had vanished completely from our social circle, with rumors suggesting he'd moved to another state to rebuild his career away from the wreckage of his reputation. Elena, meanwhile, had landed a prestigious position with a Chicago law firm and was posting photos of her new life with obvious happiness and confidence. The most satisfying aspect of the entire experience was realizing how completely I'd misjudged my own worth during those 2 years with Brittany. She'd convinced me that I was lucky to have someone like her, that my steady, thoughtful approach to relationships was somehow insufficient compared to Cole's flashy arrogance. But the evidence suggested otherwise. Everyone who learned the truth immediately recognized that I'd been the one bringing value to our relationship while she'd been taking advantage of my generosity and trust. Looking back, I could see that Brittany had fundamentally misunderstood who I was, expecting weakness where she found strategic thinking, assuming I'd accept humiliation rather than methodically documenting her betrayal. Her test had been designed to prove I was a pushover who'd tolerate disrespect for the privilege of staying with her. Instead, she discovered that some people respond to betrayal not with explosive drama, but with quiet, devastating precision.